Hare Krishna, dear devotees. This is Rasika Preeti Devi Dasi from the beautiful farms of Nilachal Vedic village, ISKCON Telassery. So today we are going to take up the topic of mobile phones. In Kali Yuga, subtly people are becoming more and more fickle-minded, more and more absent-minded, more and more chanchal, जिसको हम बोलते हैं ना, like very fickle, very fidgety all the time, because they can't go within, they can't sit still, they can't be calm. It is a punishment, some people find it as a punishment, that if you ask them to be quiet and do nothing for an hour, it's a punishment. So we are continuing with the previous video. It may not seem a proper ending and proper beginning, but it's just like, we are divided the video in parts, so for easy upload, and that is why this is a long journey. So let's continue. We are so used to mobile phone that the moment there is silence, go to a place where there is no electricity or at least no connectivity, they'll go mad. People go mad. They forget about everything else around and they'll just go mad. Oh, there is no connectivity. How will I survive? How will I live? So much problem. Yeah. So we have to be very careful, like, when giving a young mind, young children, such a tender age, to get them to addicted to something. So it's very disastrous, on an intellectual level. Let's look at it as health, on the health platform. Now if I have to tell you, आपका बच्चा बहुत रो रहा है ना, बहुत सता रहा है, एक काम करो, उसको जंजीर से बांध के रख दो, बहुत मस्ती करता है. So this mobile phone is like the chain you're putting around Janjeer. At least that Janjeer is not going to harm the child intellectually in the sense कि उसका creativity destruct हो रहा है. वो उस जंजीर के साथ जैसे when Krishna was tied around, he was still creative. He still pushed the mortar and liberated the trees, liberated the Kuber sons. But this Janjeer is going to destroy intellectually. This Janjeer is going to destroy them completely. Okay, it's like if your child is cranky, will you give them some sort of drug, some sort of whiskey, brandy, like drug खिला देते हो, सो जाओ, सुला दो उसको, नींद की गोली देके सुला देते हो, नहीं सुला सकते. Why? It's dangerous for the health. And why mobile phone? It is a नींद की गोली, because it. Why I'm saying it, I'll just share an experience. A friend of mine, when we were studying and we were working, we had to make a presentation on mobile phones addiction and how bad it is on different levels. So this lady, she shared an observation, her daughter has a habit of sucking her thumb in sleep, and the same thing was observed when the daughter was watching television. So while watching television, she would suck. In her wake state, she would never put her thumb in the mouth. It is only during the sleep that she would do that. And the same action was, the only other time it was repeated was when she was watching television. What does that say about it? Your mind goes in a sleeping state when you're watching meditation. So it's awake, you're awake, your senses are awake, and mind is sleeping. How tiresome it is. How destructive it is. You're like in a drug addicted state where you're conscious and yet not conscious. So this is a state you're putting your child into. Disastrous on health. Yeah, another technical reason I'll give you. So when a video is created, you need to move 30 pictures in every second, 30 frames per second. That is the frame rate of creating videos. That means if you want a video to go any faster, you'll have to reduce the frame rate, because what happens is our eyes can perceive, for a normal seamless video, our eyes perceives an image. The image stays on the retina for 1/30th of a second. Right? It's third standard general science. Okay, we saw, give reasons why when the fan moves you cannot see the blade. Okay, so the same reason applies over here. So for a video to be seamless, the images keep changing at a fast rate. Now in 1 second in a video, your brain is seeing 30 different images, right? 30 different pictures. In 1 second, in real life, however fast you move your head around, you cannot see 30 different images. It's just not possible. You cannot even move your eyes that fast. Forget about the head. So for what to speak of 30 different activities for fun that you can do in 1 second? You cannot, right? So what are you addicting your child to? You're addicting your child to watch and be entertained in 30 different ways in 1 second. That speed is unmatchable physically. You cannot achieve that speed physically, manually, I mean to say. So if you can't do that, will the mind, after experiencing this kind of enjoyment, sitting at one place, having nothing to do, will the mind really be able to enjoy life after that? No, especially not with the children. We as adults find it so difficult to give up the phone addiction. What to speak of kids, young mind, tender mind, and you're making them addicted to so much activity in 1 second, which is not possible for them to do even in a minute. Then that is the reason this leads to hyperactivity. This leads to frustration, because you're not getting the same pleasure within the time without spending that much energy. You spend so much more energy. You spend so much more energy to do 30 different activities even in a day to get some kind of play, right? So it's drastic difference of the energy invested to the happiness gained. It's a drastic difference in the ratio, and no child will be up for it after watching videos, after getting it. Children go bazinga, they go mad, and they have this frustration. They can't concentrate. There is so much, because the mind is so used to spin. The mind is spinning even after the mobile is off, and it cannot stay still. And if they can't stay still, how will they ever do anything else, right? So it is so destructive. Now some people give mobile phones. And so I'm targeting all of the reasons, why mobile phones should not be given to the children. Okay. So some people give mobile phones when they want to feed their children food. Okay. Now they say, this was told to me. I went for this yatra, and my younger one is really a fussy eater. He really tests my patience and tests everything I teach anybody. So this lady, she came up to me and she told me, you put one video in front of him and see how he'll eat. Okay. I said, yeah, right. So I don't do that, I'll never do that. Even if my child is not eaten for 3 days, I will not resort to giving him a video, because less food is okay, video is not okay. I'll tell you why. Because when we are eating food, okay, so Ayurvedically, recently a friend of mine mentioned it to me, that according to Ayurveda, when you're eating, and if your state of mind is sad, or you're listening something depressing, that food turns into toxins. Yeah. And when you are while eating, if you see something exciting, there is a risk of you choking on your food out of happiness. So it is always suggested that you sit quietly and eat. Okay. Now with children it is not possible. Okay. So you should engage them in listening rather than sitting. So normally what we do as adults, we put on some kirtan, or we just sit quietly, sit with your food, be prayerful, be in the mood of reverence, because you have received this food. Somebody, the farmer, God has mercifully given it to you. Krishna was so kind that you've received prasadam today. Some farmer must have grown it, my mother or somebody has cooked it, and we are very grateful for the food that has come on the plate, and we pray for those who have not received their prasadam today. May somehow they are nourished, and we thank God for giving us this nourishment. Yeah. And then you consciously eat food. So when you're consciously eating food, the food is going to give you the maximum benefit. Yeah. And as you chew your food, as you swallow it, and that experience, you will be full in half the food you normally ate with the video. Normally when you watch something, by the time your mind registers that you have started eating, you're already full. You've already eaten the quota, and you will feel full after 3 times or 4 times more the food that you normally require. Okay, so you will not know your appetite at all. You end up overeating. You end up eating food in wrong consciousness, and then you say, I eat all the healthy foods and yet I'm not healthy, right? So when you're eating food, your attention should be completely on eating and chewing and swallowing, and that consciousness, being grateful to Krishna for that you have received prasadam for your nourishment, and praying that this nourishes you in every way possible. Yeah. So that should be the meditation while eating food, and no talking, no communicating, no watching television. What if you suddenly get a sad news? We don't even receive or answer phones while eating food. So it's important that you eat quietly. It's important that you sit and meditate on the food. Now what to do with the kids? They're not going to eat without the mobile phones now that you have given them so much addiction. Even otherwise, even if you didn't get your children, you can, tell them stories about food while eating. How this particular food, suppose you're feeding vegetables, a bone of beans, like For example, your child is not interested in eating the beans, okay? You can tell them story of magic beans or peas, matar, whatever the child is not eating. So there are a lot of stories that you can tell about the food. Create one on your own. What is it that your child requires? So if you're tuned in with your child, if you spend time with your child, if you spend quality time with your child, you will know exactly what excites your child, what makes them happy, what makes them think, what are their motivations in life, what do they really cherish a lot. So for my child, it's all about strength, and intelligence and good powers. So when I tell him a story, I tell him that how this particular food is going to nourish him. I have to give him scientific facts. Like, how by eating this, you're going to get good proteins which are going to create which are like the building blocks, and some basic, not too technical, basic, it will give you strength, or this food will make your bones stronger, this food will help your shikha grow longer. So whatever is important for your child, you can tell, oh, this is the food that you should eat more for your shikha to grow longer. This food gives 90% of your strength in this plate. This food is going to give you that, and even if they don't like, they'll end up eating. This is all, of course, third year and above. Before third years, you can always play, the family can come together. Like even for my 1.5, 2-year-old, I keep all his toys around, and then everybody is eating. So now even Damodar will eat. So one bite taken by his favorite Pooh or Pluto and this and that. And then finally, Damodar will also eat. So that way you feed, but you feed. Somehow or the other, you feed. Just avoid mobile phones. If you don't know how to feed your child without mobile phones, go to your parents, grandparents, anybody, elderly person in the neighborhood, how they fed you when they didn't have mobile phones. They didn't have mobile phones, and I was a big fussy eater. My father would sit with me. I remember he would sit with me at the door. He would show me the moon, and we would talk so much, and then somehow he will put the entire food in my stomach. So that's how you can feed. You don't have to resort to, I know it's time consuming, but parenting isn't supposed to be a leisure activity. It's a responsibility. You don't become parents just for fun of it, or just because it's a social obligation. You become parents because you're taking a responsibility for the future. They are going to be the future. You don't want a destroyed, broken future, a depressed future, a future that is going to commit suicide just because the phone was taken away. Or there are so many stories in the news, just because this particular PUBG game was banned, people were frustrated around. Just because TikTok was banned, so many people were frustrated around. Why? It's just an app. Your life is not taken away from you. So that was all for today, and we'll meet again in the next video and we will discuss further.
Till then, reflect on what we discussed today, and Hare Krishna.